Adalita, thanks so much for joining us today here at the Australian Music Vault.
Thanks for having me, Jane. It's good to see you.
As the co-founder of Magic Dirt and a solo artist in your own right, you've carved a career as one of Australia's most respected and influential artists. With 7 Magic Dirt albums under your belt and 2 as a solo artist, you're loved by the media and your fans, and the kids who are picking up guitars as well. You're such an inspiration to them, and you're a real advocate for animal rights. You are comfortable on stage with luminaries such as Tex Perkins and Tim Rogers. You're also at home in a rock opera or on Rock Quiz. You've navigated career highs and lows, and you've also had to deal with a lot of personal tragedy. What emerges is a woman who is so fiercely independent and knows who she is. So with that, I want to take you right back to the beginning, Adalita. Srsen is your surname. It's Croatian. Tell us about your family and how they ended up in Geelong, your birthplace.
Yeah, so my mother and father came over in the early 70s. I was nearly born on the plane over. So my mum was heavily pregnant. And pretty much as soon as they landed, I was born in Geelong. I think we had some relatives who had already settled in Geelong at the time, so that's why they ended up in Geelong.
Did your father work in the Ford factory, which was the focal point of Geelong at that point?
No, but my uncle did, yeah. So my dad was working, he was kind of he was a musician, so he was sort of on the road with his music at the time, funnily enough.
So what was your earliest musical memory then?
I do remember being backstage at some of my dad's shows, and I loved it. Like I remember as a toddler, just loving the vibe of being backstage, and I must have caught the bug at that point. But I think I was just born with that desire, because every time I encountered a stage or a backstage area growing up, like as a very young child, I remember just getting such a thrill from that.
What kind of music did your father make? And what did he play?
He played the piano accordion, the squeezy box thing, and was the singer, I guess the lead singer, or one of the lead singers. And it was sort of traditional Croatian, sort of folky music mixed with sort of a bit of rock and roll, I guess that 50s sort of rock and roll vibe mixed in, but traditional Croatian music.
What posters did you have on your walls growing up?
I like this question. Gosh, okay. I had a lot of stuff on my wall. I was the big blue tack, pictures out of, your National Geographics of like birds, eagles, landscapes. I loved nature. That would be on my wall. And then things like arty black and white photos of movie stars or something like that. And then when I was getting into music, it's funny because I didn't have that much music stuff on my wall. But when I did, it started with 80s stuff, I reckon. Like, who did I like? Like, a-ha. Used to have a-ha on the wall. But I used to have also movie stars like Leonardo DiCaprio, who I'm still obsessed with. Love him. Oh, but when Magic Dirt were living in a share house, we had a lot of stuff on our wall, like, Turbo Negro, Helicopters, Sonic Youth, Mudhoney, Dinosaur Jr., Tumbleweed, all those sorts of bands, local bands, sort of plastered all over the classic, like, share house, grunge house,
You mentioned going to discos because it was at a disco called Elevations?
It was called Escalations.
Escalations.
Yeah.
That you first meet someone who has become pivotal in your life and I think changed your life.
Yeah.
Dean Turner. Tell me about being at Escalations.
I was dancing to Madonna. I was really into it because I just loved dance and performing, and as you said, a bit of an exhibitionist. And I was up on one of the dancing, like really like choreograph, like really getting into it. Like that's all I cared about, just dancing, man. And then it attracted Dean's eye. It was during that time when he discovered my music, which was just a cassette with me taping my things I'd made up on guitar, which was essentially just me learning first on acoustic, then went over to electric, and then had the brainwave of putting my poetry. I wrote a lot of poetry, did a fair bit of writing at school from a young age, and decided to, I'll pair the poetry with these little chords I made and do a song, which I'd never even conceived of before, because I was all about dance and drama and theatre and blah, blah. Never thought about music or rock star or that stuff. No. And then Dean heard the cassette and he was like, oh, these are great. We should start a band. And I was like, okay. I was the okay girl. I was like, okay, you know, because it sounded like, yeah, sure, why not? So I didn't think twice. And from there, it just took off really quickly.
Well, let's go back to Greville Street. You're shopping with your mum. You spot a guitar in the window of a shop and you say to your mum, can I have that guitar? I think you once said something inside you just zinged, like something said to you, you had to have that guitar. Have you always had that intuition?
Pretty much, yeah. I have like just this thing that comes in, just like it's really compulsive and really loud. It's like, and really strong and undeniable. And it's almost like you don't even think, you've got no time to think. It's just like, boom, yeah. Yeah.
And she buys that guitar for you. You take it home, you get some how to learn guitar books, and you're off.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. It was really hard to learn the acoustic because the strings are a fair bit away from the fretboard than an electric guitar. And I had to press my fingers down for months. And it's like, what? Why would you do that to yourself? I was just pressing them down, and it felt, in hindsight, it just felt impossible. It was like, how am I going to do this? But I was just obsessed with getting it, and just was strumming it every day and getting calluses and sore fingers. And then I don't know how I discovered the electric guitar. Maybe Dean suggested it. I can't remember. And then just went, I'll get an electric guitar because it's easier. You know, the strings aren't that far away. And then I got a distortion pedal and an amp and took it home and discovered it was so much easier with the electric guitar, and you could put on the fuzz pedal and it covered up all your mistakes and made really loud, sustained chords. I knew so little about music that when I took the amp, guitar and pedal home, I put the guitar on my lap and turned on the amp and no sound would come. It's like... Then I looked, there's a little hole, and there's a hole on the guitar. Oh, I think I need one of those cable-y wire things. Went back and they were very nice in the guitar shop, the men. They were nice because I was just this little girl just going, nah. They were helpful.
What was it about Dean? How would you describe Dean? You mentioned that you were the okay girl. Was he the driving force? I mean, he obviously loved the poetry that you were writing and some of the songs you'd created. Would it be fair to say he was the driving force? And what was he like for you?
Oh, he was such a wonderful person. He was such a safe space, you know, and really supportive and just the nicest, safest person, and real, like authentic, totally trusted him 100%. And he really loved me, like as a person, like really believed in me. He was definitely the driving force. He was sort of like a manager, producer, mentor. And yeah, I think he naturally had that producer mentality, you know, as well as being creative. He just very much had that sensibility. And I guess he saw something in it. He was very visionary and very good with his intuition, and he could see into the future. He was like he was the future seer. He did it the whole time I've known him. He could predict things, and he was always right, always. So he saw something in that, and I think he got really excited, but I was not aware, you know. He was also a very he wore his, you know, he wasn't hard on the sleeves, sort of open book. He was, you know, very level-headed, measured, down-to-earth, stoic, hardworking, you know, and kept his cards close to his chest. And he had to really trust you to let you into his world and to really respect you. And you had to earn his respect, you know. he was, I just admired him so much, you know, sort of penultimate human being, really. Had a lot of integrity. Anyway, so yeah, he was like, let's do it. We're going to do this. Do you want to do this? Yeah, yeah, okay, cool. But he was also very fun, you know, very fun, very light, very funny, and would always have a good time, and very caring, compassionate, and just everybody loved him, you know. He just, you know, he had such a big heart, you know. And so he just lifted everything and took it on and took it over here and let's do this, and just knew. So we looked for a drummer, and because the songs I made up were pretty hooky, you know, verse, chorus. So I had a sort of natural ability to write songs, and it came really easily, and the songs just came like that, and they kept going and going. So the first few songs were not Magic Dirt songs. They were a different band, the Dear Bubbles band, and they were the first songs, and they were okay.
Yeah, because I think we've discussed before, you went from Dear Bubbles to Brad to the Jim Jims before. Adam Robertson joins the band as your drummer, and the litmus test was Ice for him, which would become a massive single for you. But finally, the lineup kind of sorts itself out with yourself and Dean on bass, obviously, and Adam on drums. And was it Daniel on guitar at that point? Daniel Herring on guitar.
Yeah. It's Dear Bubbles was a different drummer, and you know, we started playing gigs, you know, in skate parks and house parties and things, and then that dissolved. But we wanted to continue, and that's when we were searching for a different drummer. And I think Adam really changed the band into what it was, you know, because he was such a hard hitter, and he brought this whole swagger and this whole energy to it. And you know, you're only as good as your drummer, so he really helped make the band what it is. We already had Daniel in place because we naturally were sharing a house together and jamming together, and Daniel was a big pedal guy, had lots of amazing pedals. So were we all. And then from Adam coming in and Daniel being there, that was kind of the first incarnation of Magic Dirt, and that's when we started making up different songs because we had a new drummer and we had Daniel. So my songwriting kind of evolved in the matrix of all those people. And then, Ice was one of the first big ones that I created with that weird rhythm, and that was the litmus test for which drummer we were going to get. When we advertised for a drummer, some of the responses we got were hilarious, and one of the drummers was a bongo player.
Oh.
I was just like, that might not work. But, any of the auditions, if they couldn't get Ice, and none of them could, we just knew they weren't our drummer. But then Adam came along and bang, nailed it.
We'll get back to that, but I just want to backtrack a bit. You finish high school. At what point do you leave home and go into a share house, as you say? And also, was there not a point where you were studying as well, a Bachelor of Arts?
Yes. I did a BA, sub-majored in psychology and majored, I loved psychology, I still do, very interested in that. And majored in theatre.
Did you know what you were going to do with that?
No. The road, if I would have taken it, would have been teaching. So I got accepted into a teaching degree. So that was, I did go into that. I did 6 months of that.
Did you go into a school physically?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I did prac. Yeah.
How'd you find it?
I loved the kids, interacting with the kids, but I didn't really like anything else. It wasn't resonating with me. It felt alien and just not, I just wasn't happy, you know. My heart wasn't in it, put it that way. So I dropped out, because I just knew it wasn't for me. And I lived in the moment, Jane. I had no idea from 1 minute to the next what was coming or whatever. I just knew what I wanted to do in that moment, which was, you know, you're in your 20s and you're doing your 20s. But I was with my mates making music and being creative and expressing a lot of angst and a lot of stuff and just living. So I didn't really plan anything, didn't think anything through. But I was carried along by people like Dean and his practical sense and vision, and carried along by the music, which had a life of its own, which was we were kind of, we were being led by the music and friends and life and everything and just floating along. And so left home about, I think I was 21 or something like that. So it's
What
pretty
was your
good
first
age.
share house like? Honestly, be honest.
Yeah, it was unreal. It was great. It was with Dean. Yeah, it was great. It's so good. We lived on the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Brimley, Torquay area. You know, we did the usual things kids do, experiment with stuff, you know, little herbal cigarettes down by the sand dunes and, you know, I think, you know, acid was a big thing at the time, you know, but we did it respectfully and had fun with it. We never abused drugs or anything like that. It's just fun, you know, the thing that makes you happy and you do. I just so many great memories of all hanging out and having fun and finding yourself and all of that. But that was hand in hand with, you know, music as well and creativity. Not that we needed it for that. That was sort of outside of that. But yeah, it was great fun just being on the dole. But I worked for the dole and I wasn't on the dole for that long. None of us were. He wasn't on the dole. He was a mechanical draftsman. He was full-time employed. So,
My goodness.
yeah, and, you know, we were all sort of either working or on the dole for a little bit. So, but, you know, it was a great time to be alive in that
Well, while
decade.
you were finding yourself and the band were finding their sound and their footing, I guess Geelong, in a sense, was finding itself as a musical city. What do you remember about Geelong at that time, musically speaking?
Well, Geelong and the Barn Club have such a rich history in music, and I sort of came into it. I know it's sort of got a back history that I don't know much about. I'm still learning about, but real punk rock roots, like really strong music scene. And I guess my memory is that the Barn Club used to be an old bikers pub, but was the epicenter of music in Geelong. And I just know, and that was my memory, is that that's where you go to play music and that's where all the bands come and play, local and international. So I just walked through the door and bam, like punk rock, you know, every night, you know, sweaty, loud. You could play there any night and someone would watch you, you know, and it was such a thriving scene, you know. And it was just really strong in that decade, the 90s. Oof, it was incredible. So much music, so many crowds, and we cut our teeth there. Like, that's where we were born, like in that venue, pretty much. Like, I don't think, you know, Dear Bubbles didn't play there, but yeah, all those early incarnations, Jim Jims, Brad, Detroit, yeah, that one, all started there. And it started pre-Adam. When we didn't have a drummer, it was just me, Dean and Daniel, and we'd rotate on the drums. So I have played Wanna Be Your Dog on the drums and I did all right. Yeah. So, yeah, that stage is where you could see us evolve on that stage if you did a time lapse. Yeah. Yeah.
Another pivotal moment in Magic Dirt's career was playing the Tote, where Gavin Purdy, your future manager, was, and Bruce Milne, who would become your record label or Go Go Records, was. What do you remember about that time?
Oh, it was so good. I remember that gig that you're talking about. We were, I think, the first band on about 8 o'clock at night, and Adam, I'll call him Robbo, was running late because he had to come from the potato farm out in Colac. That was his family's business. Yeah, of course he did. And yeah, we only had it was very early on when we didn't have many songs, and we were on for 40 minutes, and we're like, oh God, we've only got 3 songs. What are we going to do? Just jam it. We'll just jam it. So we just jammed 3 songs for nearly an hour. We had the best time.
Do you remember those 3 songs?
No. No, it was just a wall of noise. And there was not that many people there, hardly anybody, but there was Gavin and Bruce standing in the back. It's these guys, you know, half in shadow. And they were there the whole time, and we were kind of almost irritated, like, who are those old guys? They're staring at us. What are they? You know, just kids. And then we went upstairs and played pool, and they were really keen to talk to us. And found out obviously that they were interested and Bruce wanted to sign us, and we're like, what? All right, cool. And I think I was in a mood that night. I used to get really moody. I think I was really, so that was my memories of that night. Yeah, but yeah, what a relationship we've had with both of those guys. They've been pivotal and awesome.
And thus begins the career of Magic Dirt, which is, there are so many peaks and troughs to Magic Dirt's career. But as I mentioned earlier, 7 albums in all thus far, etc. You've supported countless international bands. You're part of the burgeoning scene of the 90s. Oh, when you look back at the 90s and Magic Dirt's ascension, I guess, from Geelong Barwon Club to being signed to your Ice single, to the big day outs, the home bakes, and being part of that scene, what do you remember? Or do you even remember?
Yeah, I know.
Maybe I should ask that
joke,
question.
isn't it? Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's so many memories just jammed. Like, as you know, it was such a time. So many great shows, so many great bands to play with and meet, and so many parties, so much partying. That's why we can't remember anything. Really, like, I just so first thing to say is so lucky to have been part of that scene in that time, considering how the world is now. It's so crazy. It's like, so glad that happened and we were there, and that's all we have left now is memories. But when you're in it at the time, it's so hard to describe. It's so vibrant, so intense, so full on, so awesome, so much touring, so much energy, so much great music. And I think the whole time we were constantly pinching ourselves. It just felt surreal, playing alongside all those massive bands like Iggy Pop and Smashing Pumpkins and,
Whole, Pavement, Sonic Youth.
Yeah, all those bands, it's just incredible, but so much touring. That's my main memories. So much touring, so much lugging, so much sweat, but just we had so much energy to burn. So, we were like, okay, next show. And that was our life. Our life was on the road, and, next town, next people to meet, next show to play, and such a sense of satisfaction, And physically, it was demanding, but physically so satisfying, We were pretty fit, and it was good for our mental health,
Were you difficult to be around at times, Adalita?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, but that's part of being a lead singer.
Or an artist.
Yep, being one of the principal members of the band. Yeah, we broke up a few times. Yeah, on me.
The band broke up.
The band broke up. Me, I was the one that broke up the band. There's very famous stories of me breaking up the band mid-set. Or the band not knowing. So I was a nightmare. I was in a maelstrom of all the feels. Just like couldn't handle it. So. We're breaking up the band. That's it. And then, of course, the next day I'd be like, no, I didn't mean it. I mean, it's just sort of part of it, really. I guess I sort of, I'm an artist, I guess. I sort of live in that emotional world and the world of feelings, and not very, I go to extremes, but that's how I sort of write songs and interpret the world, and that's because I feel it so strongly, and I can be over the top to some people, but for me that's normal operation. That's my baseline, it's like, oh wow, whatever, we're on the plane, this is awesome. It's like a kid, constantly amazed at everything around me, like really intensely, and feeling everything very intensely, and I still am that way. So yeah, I guess if I'm in a bad mood, yes, I can get very dark and very, you don't want to be around me.
In the 90s as well, there were few bands fronted by females, but there were a lot of females around. And they were playing bass or they were playing drums or, you know, they weren't necessarily lead singers, though we can name the lead singers probably on one hand. How did you find navigating that constant media attention and scrutiny of what's it like being a girl, being the only girl in a band?
How did I navigate it? I was just myself. Like when I was asked the question, what's it like to be a female in an all male dominated or the only one in the band? I would genuinely just say things like, it's great. It's fine. It's great. Don't worry about me. Or sometimes if I was in a bad mood, I'd say, I'm sick of this question, you know, but that was rare. That I'd be, you know, rude or whatever. Yeah, look, it's sort of like a few different feelings around that, being sort of one of the only females or very few females in the industry at the time. It was notable. So it was a talking point, and I liked that. So it made you feel a bit more special or something like that. And it was unique. So yeah, that's a fact.
Do you think you got a lot more opportunities because you were female?
I think so. Yeah, and I think I still do. Yeah. Whether that's good or bad, that's for other people to judge. I sort of swing between the two. It's like sometimes I go, did you only get me because I'm a female? It's like, oh, well, okay, whatever.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take it. Or I'll do my thing and then you'll go, oh, whether female or male, she was great or that was great or they were great. So, but then, you know, I think for the most part it was awesome and then for the most part I didn't think about it. And I've always tried to describe this to journalists or in the media. It's very hard to describe, but the way I can say it is I've always felt genderless for the most part. Like it's, I feel pretty, maybe
fluid.
We all do.
You're fluid.
We just feel fluid or we just feel just like a person, I think. Maybe we all feel, maybe I'm not, it's not a unique thought or feeling, but yeah, I don't often think of my gender when I'm doing stuff, you know. And I tend to think of myself as quite androgynous, and I do feel I have probably, if you're going to talk about masculine traits, I feel like I own that a bit more in me. I'm quite in touch, I feel, with the masculine side of me. So, yeah, that's kind of the gender, my gender story, or in terms of music. But yeah, you know. That's as far as I've thought about it.
When did you know you were fucking famous, Adalita?
Pretty early on, Jane. Yeah.
Tell me about that moment. Take me back there.
Yeah. I reckon when Magic Dirt sort of started to support bands like Sonic Youth and when the buzz really started quite early on, very early on, when people started to ask us to support them or get us to sign their poster, it was like, oh, okay, now we're famous. Yeah, pretty early on, I kind of knew it. Yeah, but things like being on a Australian postage stamp,
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Just little things like that, and some of that's just luck.
Yeah,
it's just luck. It's not because you're being acknowledged as this great Australian band, which we are, like a great Australian band, but there are many great Australian bands, but sometimes you get sort of plucked out and chosen. So things like that can really just elevate you to this new sort of star status. So things like that are pretty awesome and funny to us because it's like we're just from Geelong.
First female to grace the cover of Australian Guitar magazine in 2005. What took them so long?
Yeah, no, that was pretty cool. Yeah, it was a big honour. Yeah, I remember that.
It's also around about this stage that Dean tells you privately that he's not well.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Pretty unbelievable, very shocking and, yeah, just always seems surreal and shocking. I don't think I'll ever get over it, really. someone so young, you know, and yeah, we couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. Yeah. And he had to tell us twice. Yeah. Because they got rid of it, then came back.
Wow.
We had 2 different people that filled in on bass while Dean was recovering from various treatments. And, you know, that worked. You know, they were great. But then obviously, things changed.
So in 2009, he sadly passes away. How did you cope? You'd lost your mentor, your best friend, your bandmate, your manager.
Yeah, well, it wasn't sudden because he'd been dealing with it for quite a few years. It didn't make it any more, you know, easier to deal with. But yeah, it was hard, you know, watching him suffer, you know, through all the treatments and the way his body changed. And it's just, it's so, it's beyond hard to describe. And, you know, it's just, I haven't. It seems surreal still. Like, you know, my body can go back into those moments and I still feel that trauma, you know, just that shock where you just go into shock. And just as a human being, just to see him go through it, that was the worst. You know, the band, the music, all that just didn't matter. But just someone so awesome and, you know, that had a family and very young children and then had this career that was so successful and there was so much more to go. All the stuff, you know, that he had in his life that he'd worked so hard for, like one of the hardest working people I've ever met. And for him to die at 37 from this really rare cancer and then rare again to die from it, rare to get it and then rare to die from it, the percentage is tiny. It's just makes me so angry, you know. Just makes me just go, why not me? Don't take him. Like, it's just so, that's the main thing. I just go, it's just not fair. It's just not fair. He really just should be here, you know. And, yeah, I miss him every day. You know, he was, you know, my closest friend, like you say, mentor, everything to me. So I still, you know, there's such a big hole. There's so much I can't do without him, you know, that I don't do without him. Or if I do it, you know, it's like I'm fumbling, you know, and I have to ask other people. It's like, no, I need Dean, you know. So, yeah, it's been really beyond weird and hard and just, yeah. And then, you know, Raoul and Linda and everybody just, you know, watching them, seeing them so heartbroken and suffering through all that. It's just all these layers. It's like so much, you know. And he was so loved by everybody. So everyone was in shock because a lot of the fans didn't know what was happening because it's just the way we wanted to keep it, very private. So when it happened, a lot of the fans were in total shock. But we get a lot of and whenever we do a post about Dean, that gets the most love out of anything, the most likes, the most love hearts, you know, like hundreds, thousands. So yeah, it's just such a loss.
Do you feel him around you sometimes? Do you think he's around you sometimes?
Yeah. I mean, I still try and have conversations like if I'm trying to make a decision about something in my career, I sit there and because I know Dean so well, I can imagine what he's going to say. So I sit there and visualise our conversation. But yeah, he's definitely around. And
he lives on.
He lives on. And he lives on with the music. That's why we got back together. Is like we know we have to continue and the legacy and there's a whole bunch of stuff we need to do. So he's always around. He's always around, very close.
Well, before he passed, luckily, he started helping you with what would become your first solo record, Adalita. he didn't get to hear the finished product, unfortunately, but I feel as a listener that you were able to pour so much of that grief of losing such a pivotal person in your life. It's just a wonderful album from start to finish. How do you view that as a piece of work now, and how do you reflect on that? Because that was a very difficult album for you to finish without Dean there, who had helped you start it as a producer initially.
Yeah. It was the solo career happened because of Dean. Because when I would write for Magic Dirt, there would be a whole bunch of songs that wouldn't suit the band and they'd get left behind. So I started to sort of stockpile all these extra songs. And Dean just one day said, you should do a solo thing. And I did the thing again. I said, okay. And that's how that happened. Yeah, okay. And he was right.
Yeah.
And he was really ill at that time. But he managed to, so started recording around 2008, 2009 when he was really sick, but he would make it to the studio because work really helped him to take his mind off everything. But he would be in the studio sort of, sleeping but still would get up and help and be there producing. But he suggested JP Shiloh as my instrumentalist or extra artist on the record, which totally worked a treat because I didn't really think of that at all. Dean suggested it and suggested the studio, everything. And Dean was there for a lot of the recording. And I think we might have even finished recording the record.
Ah.
I think. It was a bit of a blur around that time. But no, he didn't ever get to hear the final thing. But I just really wanted to get it out there because he'd worked so hard on it and it was his whole sort of, project. And we didn't think that it was going to be as successful as it was. We were just kind of very much, again, living in the moment and just making this piece of art. And then it just took off. And I just know he would have been so proud and he would have just been, very satisfied, and happy. And he came to my first few solo shows. And he was really sick. But he would make it to the shows. And that was really hard for him, but he really wanted to be there and he was so passionate about it. But yeah, it worked out so well and I have him to thank a million times over for that, because I wouldn't be here where I am now without him. So,
are you comfortable as a solo artist?
Yeah, I am. I find playing solo on my own is the most challenging aspect of the whole thing because you don't have a band and I've always grown up with a band and I still get nervous, really nervous before I do a solo show. But, Jane, I think it's because I don't play often. I think if I was on the road a lot, that would change things. So I think that's a big part of that. But as a solo career, I love it. Oh, yes, no, don't get me wrong. I love it. Absolutely love it. And I'm really lucky to do it. And so many opportunities have come out of that. And I've got a great live band and I've got lots of ideas for other solo projects, I want to do in the future. And, I just feel really lucky that it's turned out. And I'm glad the songs have found a voice and a platform to come out. Otherwise, they just languish. They'd be lost, So I think the solo thing was really needed, and I think that's what Dean realised very early on is that there needs to be a release for these songs and a space. So yes, feel very, very lucky, and it feels right.
From your solo record to All Day Venus, which to me, as a listener, is that about you're getting back at somebody, Adalita?
Yeah.
Can we be honest here?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
You had your heart broken?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm very open about what records are about. I won't name names.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it was about a very short, intense connection that went south, like really quickly and really intensely. So, but it created these songs that wouldn't have come out if that didn't happen. So I'm pretty grateful.
Yeah, there's some powerful stuff. The first single from it,
Which was Trust Is Rust.
Trust Is Rust.
Yeah.
Talking about, I mean, was he married? I mean, it seemed that he was married or in another relationship. That's what you paint in Trust Is Rust, that you didn't want to be the bit on the side and that he'd let the cat out of the bag.
Pretty much. In relationships, more than one. He wasn't
Well,
married,
right.
but he had many connections that I was unaware of until the end. And yeah, there was one particular one that really, you know, got me thinking and
Wow.
sparked this song. And I'm so proud of that song. I love that song, and it just came out really quickly. It was born really quickly, and there's a piano part that was added right at the very end that made my record label really excited, and I knew it too, that it was one of the greatest songs I'd written. And when I found that piano part, that pushed it over the edge, and the record label was like, "That's the song. Let's do this." And that's when all the money got put into it, and everything just rolled out of that. So, yeah, thanks to that sort of love triangle that the actual other woman wasn't really aware of it. So it's quite a convoluted story, but she's fine. But it's just him that kind of duped or kind of created this drama that didn't know about until...
Does he know the record's about him?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I also want to ask you about Lindsay Gravina, because he's played a really important role, kind of, I guess, with Magic Dirt. I mean, you've used him for so many records with Magic Dirt. You've worked with him frequently, and he also came on board for one of your solo records as well. Not many people know about Lindsay Gravina. He keeps it very, very hidden. He doesn't go out there on social media or anything like that. Tell me about Lindsay Gravina.
Ooh, yes. Well, he's a bit of a bat in a cave. Like, literally, we call him the bat because he does he works at night a lot of the time is when he's really alive, like sometimes till 5 a.m, till the sun comes. He's like the vampire of, Australian sort of record producers. And we had some incredible studio times of like very frenetic creative activity, so in the thick of it, so juicy, with so much stuff that we were creating in this studio lab, just like bubble, toil and trouble, just like crazy. And then throw some booze and drugs in there and, wow, it was just like incredible. But Lindsay's been there from that time, very fruitful till now. Like, I've just finished my 3rd solo record with Lindsay, and he's in a different location, but, we're all grown up. We're all a bit, been there, done that, and, old, wise, blah, 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 a bit ragged around the edges. But Lindsay and I love each other. Like, we're like family, and he gets me. I have very few people that get me, like really get me and know me really well, and he's one of them. And he respects what I do, and I respect what he does. And he's the opposite of me. He's very patient. He perseveres. He doesn't give up. I'm all like, I want it now, and I give up, He's an artist himself, but he loves artists like me that are just wild and crazy and just unfettered and, doing their thing. And he thinks like I'm really important in the Australian music scene, and he always has very nice things to say about me. He's very complimentary and supportive in that way. So I sort of believe him. I go, okay, he thinks I'm great. Okay, that's good. I like that. I'll work with this guy. Yeah.
You're not good with compliments, Adalita.
Oh no, I just don't have that perspective. I have a different perspective of myself than say other people might, like Lindsay.
So when you think about Magic Dirt and your contribution to Australian music, where do you think the band fit?
Yeah, good question. Well, I think we're a really important band. I think there's no one like us. I think, and we were part of such a big, important, one of the last great music movements, alternative sort of rock, grunge era. I think, especially because I'm a woman, like, you can't really forget Magic Dirt because there's me at the front, the woman with the black hair and the rock and the thing. I think we made some pretty great and unique songs, you know, that are part of people's lives. I think without us there, it would probably be a pretty different scene.
A bit blander, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think we were kind of one of the more badass kind of bands. Like when we'd rock up, it'd be like, oh, they're loud and they're angry and they're crazy, sort of thing. So I think we lend a bit of that darker edge, more crazier, sort of wild edge to the scene. I mean, there's a lot of awesome energy, wild bands, Australian bands, but we have our own unique sort of take on it. We're sort of one of the more heavier, darker sort of bands. And, you know, we didn't really give a shit what anyone thought of us. So we had that take it or leave it sort of attitude, but a really good live band too. So I think, yeah, there's a few things that...
And when it comes to your own career, what are you most proudest of?
I'm really proud of the first record, you know, that it came out, you know, that it actually, you know, came into being, you know, and just doing it. I'm proud that I actually have persevered with it because it's been really different to Magic Dirt and being in a normal rock band. And I'm just proud that I've, just stuck with it. And more so than also being proud, I feel really lucky that people like my music, and that makes me keep going. But just being invited on things like, you know, to perform for the Dalai Lama is like, I feel pretty proud about that.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, just the Dalai Lama came to Australia a few years ago and on one of his rare visits, and it was in Perth, I'm pretty sure, and I was invited with a bunch of artists to perform. And I don't know how that happened, but it happened. And just being invited to perform at things like the David Bowie tribute, you know, to be entrusted with a task like that, I feel pretty humbled. And you know, I'm also just proud that Magic Dirt is still together, you know, that we're such a great family and we're still working hard to deliver our music and, you know, go out there. And I'm just proud of, everyone, you know, around me that, you know, there's so much to be proud of. Just making a record. It's a huge task, you know, and making this third record, I think, is one of the most proudest moments at the moment because it's been really hard, especially without Dean. This is the first time I've really struggled with decisions and how to do it, because it was easy for the first two records for some reason. Dean was there, then the second record was a flow on and I had Lindsay, and it was just a bit different. But this third one really had to start from scratch. And it's been a few years in the making. So to finally have it wrapped up, I feel really proud and relieved that I actually stuck with it, because there was a few moments where I was like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can deliver it, because it was just technically really hard to get. But I kept persevering, and once it's out, I'm going to feel super proud.
Adalita, where would you like to be in 10 years' time?
I'd like to still be doing this. I'd like to be representing the middle-aged woman
All
on
right,
stage.
yes.
Yeah. I'd like to be, and then in 10 years after that, I'd like to be like the Neil Young or the Patti Smith or the Stevie Nicks in terms of age, not talent. Hello. In terms of age, you know, and aging and being in the industry, I'd like to still be doing it at that age, you know. That's where I'd like to be, and still be doing shows, and people still be coming out to shows, and just doing things that are worthwhile, you know, and important, and still writing good music. And I'd also like to be doing a lot more collaborations and mentoring and producing, and just being sort of that elder in the industry. So still really active and still amongst it, you know, both solo and Magic Dirt and whatever else is going to come out of that.
You talk about mentoring, and there are so many young girls I know that are inspired by you. What would you tell them? What piece of advice would you give them?
So many pieces of advice. I'd say firstly, be yourself. Like just try to listen to your voice and keep true to your voice as much as possible, and surround yourself with people that make you feel authentic, and make you feel supported, and like just sort of do what you love, like just do things that make you happy, like because that'll take you to places if you sort of follow your joy and follow what makes you feel really good. And yeah, just the classic, just if anyone gives you any flack for any reason, particularly for being a girl, is like, just don't listen to it. Just kick it to the curb and just keep doing what you're doing, and don't give up. And I'd also say, maybe take advice on board from trusted people, because sometimes I know myself, I haven't always known what the right thing to do is. So it's good to maybe be open to suggestions and things to try in your musical journey or creative journey, because you can always try it. If it doesn't work, it didn't work. Like, I've learnt from mistakes a lot of the way. So it's okay to make mistakes and, things to kind of go a bit wrong, because there's always lessons learnt. But I think most importantly, surround yourself with people that make you feel supported. And if there's anything along the way that doesn't make you feel supported, just get rid of it.
What's changed in the music industry over the last 30 years?
Oh, what hasn't? Touring is harder and much less touring for me, for a lot of artists. The internet, has made music, making money from music much, much harder. Everything's harder, just earning money. Earning money via music has just gotten harder. That's the main thing that's changed. The positives are that through social media you reach a far wider audience and much quicker. So there are positives, but it's just harder. And I've heard young musicians say it, like young kids in the industry, it's really hard to be in a band and do stuff, like play. But I think also, the way the world's going and everything that's happened goes to show how important music still is and how much people still need it. So it's highlighted that.
What's the biggest misconception about you?
That I'm a bitch.
You're not. So not.
Or, maybe I should say that I'm, that I'm unapproachable, or that I'm, that I'm intimidating, because a lot of people who meet me, they're surprised at how nice I am and what a sweetheart I am. They say it in a different sort of way, but I think just because of my sides of my personality that come out on stage and through my music, which I get, but I'm really quite sort of shy, actually, and really quite reserved a lot of the time, and I am quite mousy. Mouse-like, and I've got a mousy tattoo there.
Oh.
Yeah. You can see there.
How would you like to be remembered, Adalita?
Just like this, the person who made music, rocked out hard, worked hard, was uncompromising and was just herself, and, just did what she wanted to do and enjoyed it.
Well, thank you for being yourself and bringing your best self today here for us at the Australian Music Vault. Adalita, it's been great getting to know you.
Thanks, Jane. Thanks for having me.